Brooklyn, New York. The 1950s. A crumbling housing project in Canarsie is where Howard Schultz's story begins, not in boardrooms or cafes, but in broken elevators and leaky ceilings. His father, Fred Schultz, was a former army man who bounced from job to job. Truck driver, cab driver, factory worker, none with benefits or stability. Howard didn't have toys or books. But he had imagination and hunger, real and metaphorical. He'd stand on the roof and dream of the world beyond Brooklyn. He wasn't just poor, he was invisible in America's rising middle-class story. His family had no insurance, no savings, and no options. But Howard had something else, vision, even if it wasn't clear yet. One day, Fred Schultz slipped on ice during work. He broke his ankle. Just like that, the family income was gone. No compensation. No job security. Howard saw his proud father sink into quiet rage and shame. That wound never healed. Young Howard watched in pain. He decided something. If I ever get the chance to lead a company, I will never treat people the way my father was treated. It was a silent promise to a man who had no voice in the corporate world. This chapter ends with an emotional image. Fred Schultz sitting in a dark room, leg in a cast, no paycheck coming, and Howard watching from the hallway. Despite everything, Howard fought his way to college. He earned a football scholarship to Northern Michigan University. The first in his family to go. He wasn't a star athlete, nor a top student. But he learned resilience. He worked multiple jobs to stay afloat. After college, he entered sales, first at Xerox, then at Hammerplast, a Swedish company selling housewares. He wore suits, carried briefcases, and learned how to persuade. But inside, he still felt like the poor kid from Brooklyn. Still, he began to see how business worked, and how relationships, not products, drove decisions. While analyzing Hammerplast's reports, Howard noticed that a small company in Seattle was buying a surprising number of coffee machines. Curious, he flew across the country to meet them. That small store. Starbucks. Founded by Jerry Baldwin, Zev Siegel, and Gordon Boker, it wasn't a cafe, it only sold coffee beans, grinders, and brewing gear. But the smell, the environment, the passion, Howard was captivated. He returned home thinking about it constantly. Not about machines or margins. But about experience. What if coffee wasn't just a product, but a moment? Howard kept calling Starbucks. Eventually, in 1982, they hired him as Director of Retail Operations and Marketing. He moved to Seattle with his wife Sherry, unsure of what the future held. At Starbucks, he began shaping store layouts, engaging customers, and learning about the culture of coffee. But he felt the company was too narrow. They sold beans, but not brewed drinks. He started forming a new vision, but didn't yet know how radical it would be. In 1983, Howard traveled to Milan. What he found there changed his life. Small cafes on every street. Elegant espresso bars. People standing shoulder to shoulder, sipping coffee and talking about politics, poetry, life. No rush. No to-go cups. Just human connection. He returned to Seattle transformed. He told the founders, "We need to serve espresso. America needs this experience." But they weren't interested. They feared it would ruin their brand, distract from their core. Howard was crushed. But he knew what he had seen, and he couldn't unsee it. Tension built. Howard tried to push his cafe concept internally. But the founders resisted. They believed in beans and purity, not cafe culture. Eventually, they told him, "If you want to open cafes, do it on your own." So he made a decision. He would leave. Start from scratch. No safety net. No guarantee. Just his vision of an Italian-style espresso bar in America. It was one of the hardest decisions of his life. In 1985, Howard launched Il Giornale, named after an Italian newspaper. He pitched his idea to hundreds of investors. Most said no. Some laughed. Others said coffee was too boring. But slowly, he gathered momentum. $1.6 million from 217 investors. He opened the first store in downtown Seattle. Espresso, Italian pastries, opera music. The public loved it. Howard worked 16-hour days. Swept floors. Pulled shots. Talked to customers. Trained staff. He wasn't running a company, he was building a culture. Then something unexpected happened. In 1987, Starbucks founders decided to sell the company. Howard saw his chance. But he wasn't the only bidder. He had to raise $3.8 million, and fast. He called everyone he knew. He was outbid by a corporate competitor. Then one of his investors stepped in with a final check. On August 18, 1987, Howard Schultz officially bought Starbucks. He now owned the dream that once rejected him. Howard combined Starbucks and Il Giornale. They had 17 stores. But his dream? Thousands. He told his small team, "We're going to build the most respected brand in America." But it was terrifying. He had no roadmap. No major resources. Just a belief that people craved connection, and coffee could deliver it. He began hiring carefully. Designing stores to feel like home. Investing in employees. Every cup mattered. Every smile counted. Starbucks was reborn. 17 stores, Howard Schultz at the helm, and a dream to bring the coffeehouse culture to America. He expanded slowly at first, making sure each store had soul. No franchises. Every store was company-owned to preserve quality. Each new cafe was built like a community hub. Customers came not just for coffee, but for warmth. Starbucks trained baristas to remember names, smile, and make people feel seen. By 1992, Starbucks had over 140 stores. Investors came calling. Howard was hesitant. Going public meant answering to Wall Street. Could a company focused on people over profits survive in the stock market? He took the leap. Starbucks went public in June 1992. The IPO raised $25 million. Share prices soared. Howard became a millionaire on paper, but he remained focused on the long term. Every dollar earned, he believed, should go back into the brand, the people, and the mission. Starbucks wasn't just selling drinks. It was offering a third place. A place between home and work. A safe space for writers, students, friends, the lonely, and the dreaming. Design mattered. Lighting was warm, music curated, chairs comfortable. Baristas weren't just servers, they were part of the story. Howard believed that in an increasingly disconnected world, Starbucks could reconnect people to people. Remembering his father's broken ankle and broken spirit, Howard made a bold move. Starbucks would offer full health benefits to all employees, including part-time baristas, something unheard of at the time. He also introduced bean stock, equity in the company for everyone. Employees weren't just staff, they were partners. This wasn't charity. It was strategy. When people are treated with respect, Howard believed, they bring their best selves to work. He turned down offers to franchise Starbucks. Turned down money to protect culture. And he said no to running for president, but not because he didn't want to help, because Starbucks was his greatest tool to create change. By the 2020s, Starbucks had over 30,000 stores in 80-plus countries. Yet, walk into any one, and you'll likely hear a barista say, "What's your name?" before they hand you a warm drink. That's the legacy. Not just coffee, but care. Not just drinks, but dignity. Howard Schultz started with nothing. No money. No power. Just a dream, a broken elevator, and a father who never got a fair shot. Howard enters a Starbucks, unnoticed. A young barista smiles at an elderly man, adds whipped cream even though he didn't ask, and says, "You look like you needed this today." Howard smiles quietly, walks out, and whispers to himself, "That's why I built this."